We used to think that leadership was strategic and very logical and rational. Well, we know for sure it's not. We know that true leadership is emotionally and relationally driven. And if you lack the EQ skills, the emotional intelligence skills, to be able to lead from that place, all the strategy in the world will just fall through the cracks.
Hi, y'all. You're listening to Optimal Instinct with Trish, and I am Trish Tagley, a business efficiency expert who uses a one-day summit to get your clients to stay longer, pay more, and refer often. Today's guest is Dov Baron, twice cited as one of Inc. magazine's top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Also cited in the Meeting and Event Professionals Guide to the Top 100 Motivational Speakers, named as one of the top 30 global leadership gurus. Dov is a man with a finger on the pulse of the ever-evolving world of NextGen leadership. He is a best-selling author of several books. His latest book is Authentic Leadership: How Authenticity Will Improve Loyalty and Revenue. He is the host of the national TV show in the U.S., Pursuing Deep Greatness with Dov Baron on Roku TV, and the host of the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 listeners globally, Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show on iTunes. This show is also carried on FM and AM radio stations across the country. And here is the man himself, Dov Baron. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for introducing me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, like I said, impressive credentials. Love it.
Thank you.
So let's get on to the first question, because I know you're a busy man. So what is the problem that you help leaders solve? Choose one.
Yeah, and it's a good point. There are many. So on a superficial level, the problem we solve is loyalty. One of my books was called Fiercely Loyal, one of my best-selling books, and it was really addressing the issue that it is very difficult to keep top talent these days. Mm-hmm. So on the surface level, that is the problem we solve. The truth of it, though, is that underneath that, the problem we solve is this. In order to keep people loyal, what has to happen is, we know now from the research that the #1 highest factor, determining factor, is meaningful work. So the work we've been doing for 30 plus years is allowing or showing leaders how to find their own purpose and find the corporate purpose. And oftentimes the mistake is that people think purpose is mission statement. It's not. It's very different than a mission statement. It's not even I know people who've done Simon Sinek's work, which is great work, but they're not really at what it is that their purpose is. And your purpose as a leader is an emotionally driven thing. So it's you finding your primary driving forces, tapping into that, creating a business around that, creating a leadership program around that, and creating a culture around that, and an organization around that. So that's the problems we solve.
If I can rephrase that a little bit.
Please do.
So people basically are looking to mission statements to define what they're doing when they actually should be looking inside themselves for their emotional purpose to drive.
Yeah. The mission statement is this thing that, people came up with 20 plus years ago. And now you've got Simon Sinek Start With Why. And so people are looking for their why, but they don't understand the process. So the process is that they'll come up with something that will be somewhat generic or at least subjective in the context of out in the world. So they'll say, we're all about performance and integrity and these random words that mean nothing to anybody. And even though you may have team members who can regurgitate and parrot back those things, they have no emotional connection to them. A purpose always has a deep emotional connection. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. When it's a crap day and you'd rather pull a quilt over your head. It's what gets you out of bed to deal with the situation you don't really want to deal with because you care. There's this deep sense of emotional caring. We used to think that leadership was strategic and very logical and rational. Well, we know for sure it's not. We know that true leadership is emotionally and relationally driven. And if you lack the EQ skills, the emotional intelligence skills, to be able to lead from that place, all the strategy in the world will just fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was reading, of course, I was doing some research on you, and I did find There's a lot. There's a lot out there on you.
It's
sure.
some nighttime reading, huh?
Well, a couple of days, maybe. Yeah, exactly. And there was one thing that struck me because it resonates with how I think about leadership when I was in corporate and even today. And it was finding your purpose through your pain.
Yes.
And if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. When people go looking for their purpose, as I said, they'll do the mission statement thing, which is fine, but it's not a purpose. And then they'll shift to the most commonplace people shift, which is to passion. And so they'll say, oh, you know, I found my passion. I was dealing with a lady yesterday. Oh, yeah, I found my passion. What is it? You know, and it gives me this generic term and about helping people. And I said, you're passionate about that, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, that's great. I said, can I ask you a question? He goes, what? I said, do you want to help the same people as you did when you were 20? He goes, no. I said, oh, so it's changed. He goes, yeah. Oh, okay. I said, so let me ask you a question. And I'll say this is not politically correct. And anybody who knows me knows I'm not politically correct. So I don't make an apology for it. I just want to prepare you for it. And that is, if you're a straight male and you can remember being 17, 18, 19 years old, and I asked you what you were passionate about, you would probably come up with the same answer I would as a straight male. And if that was supposed to be your life's purpose, then we'd all be lined up at Victoria's Secret waiting for a job. I'm not doing that, and I'm guessing that there's not too many guys who are doing that. So clearly, passion is transitory. Passion changes. If you're an entrepreneur, then there's probably a good chance the thing you were passionate about 10 years ago, even in business, is not the same thing as you today. It's transitory. Passion is supposed to be transitory. So what I want you to understand as we move into this is your passion is the vehicle that transports your purpose. The vehicle will run out of fuel at some point in time, and your purpose will need another vehicle. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're a flake. It doesn't mean you've lost your purpose. It means your passion is done. Okay, what's next? That's the important question. So we go looking for our purpose in our passion, in our joy, in our excitement. But the truth of the matter is that your purpose is not found in your passion. It's found hiding behind your pain. And your pain is guarded by your ego. And your ego's number one job is to keep things familiar, the same. Yes. So we say, well, you know, I'm not going to look at that, because if I look at that, then things will have to change. And if I look over there, no, that's not going to happen. Not going there. So, you know, I'm very excited about this. So I'm just going to keep doing this. Yet I've made this goal. I've achieved this achievement. I've got the big house. I bought the car. I bought myself a facelift. I got a new Rolex, whatever it is. How come something's still missing? Because purpose is the connection, the deep key psychologically to fulfillment, because it creates legacy. And your purpose is always bigger than you, and it should outlive you. Your passion won't.
So much of what you're saying resonates with me. And just to give a little example, and then you can maybe do an analysis on this. A supervisor of mine one time asked me, you know, he was new and he wanted to get to know the team. And he said, what advice could you give me? And I said to him, never ask for more than you can give. And that is something that I have lived by. And as I went up through the ranks in corporate, until I decided to go off on my own, I always remembered where I came from and what I didn't like to do. And I tried to eliminate that from the team that I was managing, from there, you know, as much as possible, because you can't eliminate all tasks, but eliminate what I didn't like. So if I didn't want to do it, they probably didn't want to do it either. So I would try to change that and make it more efficient or make it more palatable some way for them. And I continue that into my work today by helping businesses, again, becoming more efficient and lessening, like I said, those redundant tasks that really, if you look into it, is this really important to what you're doing? Is it really necessary? From your perspective, am I on the right track?
Oh, I would definitely say you're on the right track. It's the beginnings of purpose. Is, as I said, it's found in the pain, but it's that naturally ties to eliminating that pain in others, which is what you're talking about. Is it the deep psychological driver? No, but it's definitely in the right direction, and considerably more in the right direction than most people do. The challenge with that level of it is that it, again, is to a degree subjective. So for instance, I know somebody very well who loves details, loves organizing little numbers and letters and putting things in spreadsheets and doing all that stuff that I personally would have to slash my wrist with a spoon just so it took a long time, just so I didn't, die of boredom doing it. But this person finds it delicious, right? The things I love doing, that person doesn't love doing. So if I come at the world with, I'm going to eliminate people having to do these boring ass tasks to do with organizing spreadsheets, well, I'm going to deny my friend joy. That's not right. So that's my subjective understanding of it. So I have to go deeper into looking at what it is that's actually driving me. So what I might find at what's driving me has got actually nothing to do with the task, but more about how I feel about myself while doing the task. That's a deeper psychological driver.
Okay. And just to add a little bit more to what I said earlier, what I usually do is lay a foundation, and then I let the people decide where they place themselves in the foundation. So if you want to color outside the lines, that's up to you, but you know where the lines are, so you can always come back. Because the whole point in my exercise is to make myself redundant. I don't make you need me. I make you not need me in the end.
Yeah, and I think that is essentially what good leadership is. See, we lived in a world where leaders tried their best to be irreplaceable. What we know for sure now is that the best leaders are constantly pushing themselves out of a job. And that's difficult to deal with when you're in my age bracket, because, we become a little bit paranoid as we get a little bit older about that, that we're going to be replaced by technology or a young buck who's going to come along. But the truth is, great leaders. Well, exactly. So the truth of the matter is that as a great leader, you're not supposed to create followers. You're supposed to create leaders. And if you continually do that, you don't eventually push yourself out of a job. What you do is you make yourself the authority, because you're constantly up-leveling your skills and your ability so that you can constantly show, well, here's the next level. So, if you'd have replaced me in my business 15 years ago with me now, that would be great, because my business would have grown exponentially faster, right? But, I was on my own in my business, so what could I do, right? So we always want to be bringing people into the next level. So if I want to bring you into my level so that I can go to that next level, rather than trying to hold on to for dear life to this misery, which is what it will become. And this is, again, part of the key, is the thing that is bringing you joy today may eventually bring you misery. If you don't believe me and you're listening to this, well, here's a clue. Have you been married more than once? Used to bring you joy, huh? Then brought you a lot of misery. Well, it can happen with careers too.
Yes, that's absolutely the truth. If there's one tip that you can give people out there, leaders out there that are listening to us, what would that be? One tip.
One tip. God, that's an easy question. The simple answer to that question is that the one tip I would give you is that great leadership is always built on self-knowledge. If you don't know yourself, and by the way, saying, well, I know I'm a bit of a dick, or I know I'm a bit of a this, that, or the other thing, it's not self-knowledge. That's self-labeling, and it's limiting. Self-knowledge is what drives me, what makes me effective, what makes me ineffective, where are my blind spots? Looking at that, what drives those blind spots? What drives me to ignore the thing that I know I need to look at? What is it that I'm doing that's in the way of getting to the goal, the achievement, the outcome, the impact, the difference that I want to make? That's self-knowledge. Great leaders are in constant pursuit of self-knowledge. Great leaders always have coaches, mentors, guides, and consultants who are along the way. If you look at Tiger Woods, and when in his heyday of golfing, when he was unbeatable, he had five coaches. The guy was the best in the world, and he had 5 coaches. Why? Because each one of those coaches could see something he couldn't see. And he understood that. That's what kept him at the top of the game. Now, at the same time as he was top of the game, how many coaches did he have in marriage? You got it. 0. What happened to his marriage? Well, it cost him about $1 billion with a B in sponsorships, prizes, and all the rest of it. Destroyed his career because he couldn't be bothered having a single coach. I actually met somebody who knew him very well, and the person said, I'd love to introduce Tiger to you, but I just know he won't go there. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, he will not deal with anything that's personal. He doesn't have a problem asking for coaches in his professional, but personally won't go there. And this is the problem. In leadership, we have these compartments, and we say, well, I can deal with it here, but I won't deal with it there. Well, then you are going to be Tiger. You might be unbeatable in one area, but in a completely separate area can bring you down. Tiger's game was destroyed by his infidelity in his marriage.
Yes.
Now, hold on a second. Let's just put that together in a logical equation. So sex with other women impacts your ability to shoot off the tee. No, that doesn't make any logical sense. But psychologically, it makes massive sense.
Yes.
Impact levels, ripple levels, it makes massive sense.
Yes. Yes.
But we don't think like that. And what we need to understand is we need to bring down the silos within ourselves and examine the different parts of ourselves, because anything you think is not impacting something is impacting everything. There is a single red thread running throughout your life. It is the purpose of your life. And it is either coming at your life in a very positive and impactful way or a destructive way. That's what your purpose is. There is a dark side to purpose, and that is this. It's already in existence, but it's probably playing out negatively.
Optimal Instinct with Trish is brought to you by TrishTagley.com and the book Everyone Knows You Suck, Bad Boss Stories, A Succinct Guide, available now in both ebook and print format on Amazon.com. And the C's Value Model that supports your desire for client relationships that are more profitable, more productive, and more likely to refer. To understand more about the C's model, go to clientvaluedemo.com. Yeah. And that's, basically what you're saying is you have to look at the person as a whole and not in compartments. And sooner or later, if one part of your life isn't going so well, it's going to impact the part of your life that might be currently going well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. That it is all connected. It is all connected. You cannot separate the butter out of the sauce once the sauce is made. And so you might think it's a separate thing, but it's all part of the same recipe, and the recipe is your life. So stepping into that and owning that. And so, for instance, when I work with private clients, we work with companies, organizations. I speak on platforms around the world, and we work with these companies and organizations, but I also work with very high-level leaders privately. People like yourself who've done enormously very successful things, have been super successful. And one of the things I will say to them is, when you do this work, we're working on your development and your leadership, and which will inevitably grow your business. It's not unusual for my clients' businesses to grow 500 and often 5,000%. However, one of the things I'll say to them is, if this doesn't impact your marriage and your relationship to your children or your grandchildren or your friends, I haven't done my job. And they go, what do you mean? I go, because you are a whole being. We sell the world a single facet of who we are, but none of us are single faceted beings. We are multifaceted diamonds. And we need to polish all the sides, including the dark sides. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so we're going to promote your book, Authentic Leadership, How Authenticity Will Improve Loyalty and Revenue, and a blurb underneath the audio for this podcast. And the last words are yours.
Thank you. That's very kind. Well, first of all, before I say anything else, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be on your show. I appreciate it. And if you are a listener to this show, it's really important that you understand that podcasts seem to be a one-way thing, in that Trish is putting it together, these shows for you, finding great guests for you to listen to and for you to learn from. And that's very nice, and how wonderful and how very altruistic of her. because she doesn't get paid for this, and I didn't get paid either. So here's what's important. You need to write to her, and you need to let her know what you got out of this show. You need to go onto Apple Podcasts or wherever you tune into podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and share it with others. Don't hoard the wisdom. Don't hoard the knowledge. Share it with others. Be generous. Be generous with the show. Be generous with the knowledge. Write to Trish. Tell her what you got out of this show or any of her shows. And you can even write to me. My email address is Dov, D-O-V, at DOVBARON.com. Dov at dovbaron.com. You can write to me personally and tell me what you got out of this. And more importantly, what are you going to do with it? And if I can help you, I'm here on the planet to serve. If you want to work with me privately or bring me in to work with your company, you can do that. But just write to Dov at dovbaron.com, and also write to Trish and tell us what you got out of this, because that's what matters. Information is worth the whole in the donut. Transformation comes from application.
That's so fantastic. And thank you so much for that wonderful endorsement and for that call to action. All right. So that was Dov Baron. And again, his latest book is Authentic Leadership, How Authenticity Will Improve Loyalty and Revenue. And thank you very much. We've come to the end of the show. Have a nice day, rest of the day, if you're getting to this later. And thank you so much. Thank you very much for joining us on Optimal Instinct with Trish. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, head on over to iTunes, subscribe, and if you really enjoy the content, leave us a well-appreciated review. If you are looking to create an environment that partners your desire for more profitable, more productive, and greater referability in client relationships, combined with sustained team morale, then I suggest you head over to clientvaluedemo.com to learn more about the C's value model. Talk soon.